Listen up, network defenders, sysadmins, and security personnel. This is a Code Ninja security advisory. We're issuing an urgent maximum severity warning right now regarding an actively exploited zero-day threat that is literally wiping out vulnerable servers in the wild as we speak. We're tracking this under CVE 2026-48939. Basically, this is a critical flaw in the widely used iCagenda extension for the Joomla content management system. And get this, it carries a CVSS 4.0 score of 10.0. That's the absolute maximum. As a senior white hat security researcher, my objective for this explainer today is to cut through the noise, give you the unvarnished facts, and deliver the actionable intelligence you need to lock down your perimeter immediately. Here's our threat report index for today. We're going to move rapidly through 5 phases: the zero-day threat, a secure comms check, the technical blast radius, immediate remediation directives, and finally, the code and sign-off. Section 1. The zero-day threat, identifying CVE 2026-48939. Okay, let's dive into this. The objective of this disclosure is simple and honestly non-negotiable. We're here to provide immediate mitigation strategies and force vendor compliance across the board. Because when an exploit of this magnitude hits the open internet, information asymmetry is the enemy's greatest weapon, and we're neutralizing that right now. A CVSS score of 10.0. You know, in the Common Vulnerability Scoring System version 4.0, you do not just get a 10.0 handed out lightly. This score dictates that the attack vector is entirely network-based, meaning it can be exploited remotely from literally anywhere on the globe. The attack complexity? Low. It requires absolutely 0 elevated privileges and 0 user interaction. So an attacker just points their automated tooling at a vulnerable Joomla server running that iCagenda extension, fires the payload, and boom, they're in. The stakes here are total, complete system compromise. To really understand the severity of the situation, we need to trace the rapid escalation of this threat. On May 26th, the CVE was initially reserved by the Joomla project. By June 20th, we saw public disclosure. But the critical pivot happened just weeks later. On July 2nd, a proof of concept, a POC exploit, was published to GitHub. And you know how it goes. The moment a POC drops, the clock is officially ticking. Exploitation metrics shifted from none to POC instantly. Then the hammer fell. On July 10th, CISA added this to their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. They confirmed active exploitation in the wild and mandated a highly aggressive July 13th due date for federal agencies to apply mitigations. Moving on to Section 2, Secure Comms Check, establishing our intelligence link. We're going to abruptly pause the technical data flow here for just a second. Before we get into the exact mechanics of the exploit, I need to establish a critical operational communication link with you. In our line of work, staying ahead of threat actors requires an established intelligence pipeline, right? So I'm instructing all viewers right now to establish secure comms. Hit that subscribe button for @cybertech79 and enable notifications. It's a tactical security necessity for real-time intel drops just like this one. Furthermore, I need you to hit the like button on this explainer. Consider that a formal acknowledgement of receipt, an ACK if you will, that you've received this vital intel and are prepared to proceed. All right, comms are secured. Let's hit Section 3, Technical Blast Radius, Unpacking the Exploit. We're going to transition into the deep dive protocol now to look at exactly how this vulnerability operates under the hood and who exactly is in the crosshairs. The crucial point here is the underlying weakness, tracked as CVE-434. This is an unrestricted upload of file with dangerous type. But what does that actually mean in practice? Well, the iCagenda extension features a file attachment upload mechanism. The fatal flaw is that this mechanism completely fails to validate, filter, or restrict the types of files a user can upload. Basically, it trusts the client. And in cybersecurity, trusting the client is a massive cardinal sin. This oversight allows a completely unauthenticated attacker to bypass intended restrictions and upload malicious files, specifically incredibly dangerous PHP scripts, directly onto your web server. So once that malicious PHP payload is just sitting there on your server, the attacker simply browses to the file's uploaded location. The web server executes the code, and we have remote code execution, or RCE. The blast radius here is, quite frankly, catastrophic. We're talking high impact to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The attacker instantly gains a foothold to deploy web shells for persistent access. They can steal your backend database credentials, deface your site, or use your server as a pivot point to move laterally right through your internal network. It is, by all definitions, a total server compromise.
Now, what's really interesting here is the specific version targeting. The vulnerable branches span a massive footprint. If you're running iCagenda versions 3.2.1 up through 4.0.7, your perimeter is breached or it's about to be. The vendor has issued patched versions, branching into two distinct fixes though, version 3.9.15 for the older 3.x branch and version 4.0.8 for the newer 4.x branch. You absolutely need to know exactly which version your CMS is currently running so you can apply the correct fix.
That brings us to Section 4, Immediate Remediation Directives, Securing the Perimeter. Identifying the threat is only half the battle. Now, we secure the perimeter. I'm issuing the following immediate remediation directives based on verified intelligence. You must execute this tiered defense strategy immediately. Directive 1. Upgrade your iCagenda extension to version 4.0.8 or 3.9.15 without delay. Patching is your primary, absolute defense. However, if you're locked by change management constraints and literally cannot patch right this second, you have to implement temporary mitigations. So, Directive 2. Disable or completely remove the file attachment feature within the iCagenda extension. Just shut the door they're trying to walk through. Directive 3. Reconfigure your web server, whether that's Apache, Nginx, whatever, to strictly disallow the execution of PHP files within the specific upload directories utilized by iCagenda. Alternatively, isolate the uploads by moving that directory entirely outside of the web root. Finally, Section 5. The Code and Sign-Off. Looking at CVD ethics. Let's ground this in the ethical framework that mandates this kind of rapid intelligence sharing. We operate under a strict code. In the spirit of coordinated vulnerability disclosure, users need to know to protect their systems. This is exactly why we issue these public briefings. The POC is already public, guys, and threat actors automate scans for these vulnerabilities in mere minutes. Hiding the details doesn't protect the defenders, it only empowers the attackers. By outlining the exact mechanics and the blast radius, we force the hand of vendors to release timely patches, and we arm you with the specific knowledge required to defend your assets before the compromise occurs. So the intelligence has been delivered, the mitigation strategies have been laid out clearly. Now the burden of action shifts directly to you. Look closely at your infrastructure today and ask yourself this one critical question. Is your perimeter secure? Evaluate your assets immediately. Apply those patches, restrict your directories, stay vigilant, and above all else, stay secure.